Welcome to Tata Communications presents ET Studios, the future of cybersecurity in association with ETCIO. Now, cybersecurity today is no longer just a defensive play. It's a backbone of digital transformation. With every innovation from AI-driven operations to cloud-first strategies, businesses now they are not just opening doors of opportunity but also vulnerability. The threats are getting smarter, the attacks surface is expanding, and traditional security models just aren't enough anymore. So where do we go from here? How do organizations move from a reactive mindset to a proactive unified security strategy that doesn't just defend but also anticipates and neutralizes threats? So that's what we are here to discuss and explore today. And to break it down, we have with us three industry leaders who are shaping the future of cybersecurity. Please join me in welcoming Vaibhav Datta, Global Head Cybersecurity Products and Practice, Tata Communications; Faisal Mufti, Vice President, Information Security, Genpact; and Dr. Pankaj Dikshit, CTO, GEM. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, starting with you, Vaibhav. You know, cybersecurity has evolved from being just a technical glitch kind of a thing to being a business imperative for all of us, right? So why is this shift happening? Where are organizations moving from here? And what is driving particularly this shift?
See, initially security was always considered to be a bolt-on, on top of traditional, networks as well as, endpoints. But it has now become a very strategic, topic. It is a topic which is now discussed regularly in the board level discussions as well. Because any security incident is going to impact the image of any brand, right? It could lead to any financial losses and it could also result in some regulatory non-compliance, right? So the board is also becoming more and more stringent on identifying what exactly is happening in the security. And hence, it is the shift which is happening from a tactical to a strategic, play which is there. And we see that is the reason why you see a lot of traditional security now moving to a next generation security platform. And that is, I believe, is on a high rise.
All right. Thank you so much for answering that question. Now moving to you, Faisal. Why are organizations, I mean, some similar questions, why are organizations now moving towards platform-based unified security frameworks? What do you think?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. So I think I'll just add to what Vaibhav mentioned. I think it's more about moving away from a tactical approach to strategic approach. And I think platformization is the need of the hour. It's not just about single platform, it's about multiple platforms coming together in a more kind of consolidated manner to give us outcomes for security. So we have different platforms from endpoint to networks to cloud. All of those define some outcomes with telemetry data, with analytics, with behavior-based detections. But for analysts to respond, for people who are taking decisions to respond, they need a consolidated view. And that's why unified solutioning is the most critical aspect of our cybersecurity programs today. And I think the second piece to this is how fast are we responding? Because if a security team is looking at multiple platforms, that means it's taking more time for them to decide. And with a consolidated, unified solution or a platform, they can have contextual information coming in from these different solutions altogether. Obviously, their decision making will be faster and they'll be able to respond faster to those threats.
All right. On that note, Faisal, one more question to you. You know, we are talking about IoT now, right? The convergence of IO and OT. At this point in time, we were talking about the interconnected world as well. How can organizations approach to sort of protect both of their digital and physical assets in this interconnected world?
Yeah, this is interesting. I think one of the most challenging things for enterprises, we've seen with digital transformation, I think both information technology systems and operational technology systems have been kind of driving the digital transformation for enterprises. And they are converging at the same time, right? There's a lot of convergence. That means that if you need to drive OT, you need to have their data-driven analytics coming in from information technology systems. But it imposes challenges because the two systems that were earlier isolated, segmented, now have some sort of interconnected capabilities, which also means that the OT system primarily had a lot of vulnerabilities which were not prioritized because of the way they were kind of modeled, they were manufactured and everything else. We see automotive mobile industry, we see healthcare. They use so many OT technologies or systems where they had vulnerabilities of thousands and numerous number, which were not kind of structured in a way to get a fix. But with them talking to information systems, the two systems will have imperative security concerns, and hence it's a challenge for organizations. And then we'll talk about how we can kind of focus some of the strategies to remediate these issues.
All right, thank you so much for giving that insight. And truly, you talked about data. Data lakes are transforming the whole cybersecurity space and how. And on that note, I would like to move to you, Pankaj sir. Talking about data, how are organizations leveraging their data for better threat detection and also in improved incident response?
Yeah, thank you, Machi. I would first start with what Vaibhav said. Another advantage or disadvantage of not focusing on cybersecurity can be complete disruption to business, right? We have enough examples of now banks, financial institutions, and other companies being hit by ransomware attacks, which come by way of having a very weak cybersecurity posture or not having the right updates and patches. So cybersecurity, besides the brand and reputation, it can completely bring your business to a halt, and that's very important. And adding to Faisal's aspect about platforms, so GEM, is a platform. It works like a marketplace for all the G2B business. Okay. The entire government and the public sector is enabled almost like a conventional marketplace, for example, Amazon or Flipkart. The entire purchases of the government worth lakhs of crores, billions of dollars. Last year we did $48 billion of business, happens through GEM. So for us, security becomes very important. Why? Because we have continuity of business for purchasing of the government that happens. Now, currently, if you look at this, we are going through the GFM quarter, which is the last financial year quarter for the public sector, and they have to spend their budgets. Now, in such a scenario, we cannot expect or we cannot accept any disruption in business. Cybersecurity takes a very important, a factor in that case. What we do is we collect all the logs that come from all our systems and subsystems and appliances, and they go into something exactly what you mentioned, data lake. Now, how this data lake helps us is that all the security logs are now in one place. Okay. Having them in one place helps me to analyze all the security related aspects, parameters, factors in one particular data piece. And that helps me to analyze and also prepare myself as a proactive measure to prevent such incidents coming, allow correlation to happen, sources, and reduce my particular surface of cyber attacks. So data lakes are very important, and not only that, and GEM, what we ensure is that we take proactive measures based on the analysis that we carried out of these. We have dashboards which are built on top of these data lakes specifically for security. And hence, I think this is, of course, there is now a new term which is combining data lakes and data warehouses into lake houses. And these are developments which ensure that you have the best of a data lake and best of a warehouse and combine it into one. And that's all available in cloud. So that's the next thing that we are looking at. But suffice to say in summarily that security information and the activities being in one place helps us tremendously to focus on and improve our cybersecurity posture.
All right, thank you. You've put this very interestingly. And with that, I would move to you, Vaibhav. See, let's talk about AI now because the world where we live in, no conversation. We cannot do any conversation without talking about AI at this point in time. Each and every newspaper, be it any headline, AI has to be there, right? Everyone is talking about AI. On that note, AI still come with its own set of challenges, right, when it comes to adoption and even accuracy for that matter. So how are organizations sort of leveraging AI in this regard, and where are we lacking currently, and what are the gaps that we still need to fill? And after that, I'll come to you, Pankaj sir. You were talking about data lakes and data. How is AI sort of helped you in accumulating all that data, and what's the role of AI there? But before that, Vaibhav, to you.
So, you're absolutely right. There has been no conversation, no meeting, no customer meeting which we have had where AI has not come up. So, it's a topic, of interest now. Having said that, AI is very, very important, and it has not been, something which has come up, or, taken a stance just right now. Okay. We have seen instance of AI being adopted in cybersecurity from some time now. When we talk about machine learning, when we talk about deep learning, all those are elements of AI and has been used within the cybersecurity platform, from some years now. Now, AI definitely brings a lot of advantages when you talk from cybersecurity. It helps us, identify the threat patterns, the behavior analytics. It identify what are the threats, from the data sets which doctor talked about, the large data sets, how do I correlate? How do I pick, what are the patterns, which are very, very interesting? How do I ensure that the behaviors which have been identified are normal behavior, or there is some, anomaly which is there? So, on the anomaly detection, on the pattern matching, on the behavior analytics, AI has really, helped us, and, we have moved over a period of time from being a reactive to a proactive state. It has helped us. Having said that, now we keep on talking about AI, and AI has just taken a new buzzword because of the Gen AI, right? And that is something, where all conversations today are, talking and pointing towards. So, from a Gen AI, what we have seen, there are definitely advantages, but it's a two-edged sword, right? When I say a two-edged sword, there are advantages where on one side we see benefits coming out of Gen AI on vulnerability prioritization. If we look at, the security specific use cases, on the threat, detection, as well as on the threat response, how I can automate my response could be very, very well defined when I'm using Gen AI models correctly. But on the AI side, on the Gen AI side, definitely there are concerns, right? We have come out of ages, but it has to be governed with a risk point of view, right? So, there has to be a privacy issue which needs to be addressed when we look at Gen AI. That needs to be addressed on priority. So, organizations who are looking on adopting the Gen AI definitely needs to have a risk-based framework to, have a governance around the AI models. Then there could be false positives, right, which are coming because of the Gen AI models. The model is not trained on the data sets. That is one particular challenge which today exists. The other thing which we are also seeing from a Gen AI, using the Gen AI for cybersecurity, is around the poisoning of the model could happen, right? So, there could be vulnerabilities which exist in the model, which can further, have issues when we are doing the data set or mining or correlating our data. So, those are the, apart from the cost impact, right? Cost is also, one particular area which is a key factor for adoption of the Gen AI. So, these are some of the challenges which today exist. Over a period of time, as we move on, the models will mature, right? But it is not only being used by the security side of the world. The Gen AI and the AI models are also used by the bad side of the world, right? And that is, where the challenge always will continue to be. So,
yeah. And I will move to you now, Pankaj sir. You were talking about data lakes and how we are actually using data for better threat analysis, right? On that note, see, he talked about the governance that has to happen when we talk about AI. He also spoke about all the biases that AI has. How do we sort of ensure that while using AI to accumulate our data or do anything with our data and it is not biased, right? Is there any scope where humans still need to be there, or AI can do everything?
Yeah, so I completely agree with you that we cannot depend on AI. It's not the be all and end all of everything. Even yesterday, I was reading a particular post on LinkedIn, and it does a lot of things. But at the end, the person who posted that also said, all I need to do is approve. So the AI will do most of the work, and it's an agentic AI used for some very specific purpose. And then at the end, he writes, I will still have to approve. Coming back to the focus of AI in cybersecurity, right? I look at it as two parts to a problem, or not problem, rather the coming of AI in the cybersecurity arena forces me to look at it in two parts. One is the offensive side and one is the defensive side, right? First, the offensive. So, a decade or 15 years back, you used to have script kiddies. Script kiddies were those youngsters without deep knowledge of cybersecurity, but because of availability of knowledge on internet, they had ready-made malwares or Trojans. They used to use them to, initiate attacks. Look at that problem now magnified with the power of AI available to the negative actors of the world, right? So, what AI has provided the offensive kind of actors in this whole IT world is a very powerful tool that is capable of generating threat vectors with a completely new power, with scale and volume and speed, right? Offensive side of this is completely something, if you are hit by it, you'll have to, really brace yourself for a very negative impact. But the good thing is that the capability is still being built. Even though the tool is there, now the laws and regulations prevent them from carrying that out, even though we see minimum, the lower scale of that effect on a day-to-day basis. So, the offensive side, you have to protect against, there are, the threat vectors increase, the surface area is increased. Why? Because every attack which used to happen prior to AI, now you magnify that in scale, whether it is IP spoofing or it is a privacy attack or anything. Coming on to the defensive side, I'll take myself back to the data lake. And what that helps in is, because I have concentrated all my security related information in one place, I'm able to run reports and analytics on that. How I'm using AI in that is, if my data lake, I used to run scripts to give me reports which used to run overnight in batches and give me a report in the morning on my security performance, I can now do that in almost near real time. Why? Because the power of AI gives me that to run that report. The new thing that we are exploring is conversational analytics on the data lake of security logs. How this provides is that I do not need to have a security professional querying that. Even an IT professional with basic knowledge of information, what he does is he types out a simple question like, give me the security threats, top security threats of the last 2 hours. He just has to type that, he doesn't have to know. Now the AI engine generates that and gives him a report in a firstly explanatory manner, one which he can understand. He doesn't have to be a SIM expert to actually look at a dashboard and see what is good, what is bad. So that is how we are using AI on the defensive side. And offensive side, of course, we have to be very careful against what comes.
No, of course, it's the rule of the universe. When offensive side becomes stronger, the defensive side has to come out more powerful, right?
I'll just like to add a point to that. I think rightly said by Vaibhav and Dr. Pankaj. I think what is important is to look at attackers have not gone beyond, and we haven't seen attacks which are leveraged by AI. I think at this point, it might change things. They're doing basic stuff with phishing and everything else, but not malware deployments using AI. They are changing their indicators with AI, obviously, because their infrastructure is getting spun up very fast. But I think what Dr. Pankaj highlighted rightly is the defense side. We have to focus on that. I think platforms today have isolated independent AI capabilities, and Vaibhav highlighted that rightly. The false positive rate, I think you talked about how much bias can be there in the model, will depend on the data that these products help us, the cybersecurity products help us identify those anomalies in a better way with less false positive rate, right? For us as security practitioners and who run the defense side of the enterprise house, they need false positive rate to be lower, more efficacy in alerts, and then these multiple systems, and it goes back to the platform approach where these multiple different capabilities on the security front consolidate. We have a single view of a SIM telling us what's going bad, from an AI model to a conversational AI telling the analyst that, hey, here is the problem, go and fix it. I think we're still far away from that, but I think the outcome for us is to focus and help each other in the industry from product OEM perspective to deploy those better AI models in their products. Yeah,
no, of course, Faisal, let's also talk about another buzzword, which is work from home. Or work from anywhere on that note, right? Gen Zs want it, right? They don't want to come back to offices, right, gentlemen? On that note, Faisal, Since we are in this remote first and the workforces are distributed, we are all living in the cloud first environment. What are those best practices that organizations can perhaps apply to ensure resilience in this current cloud first environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the challenges for enterprises have actually grown with digital transformation and with remote work and work from anywhere. Basically, it's not just working from a particular location, right? So it starts with fundamentals, right? We earlier heard about perimeter security, defense in depth, and have boundaries in place in the primitive security, capabilities of an enterprise. But now it's like kind of connect from anywhere. So the concept of a zero trust architecture for enterprises is a fundamental deployment for them to secure their enterprises, right? So ensure for an enterprise like us, we ensure that we have security coming in from identity to endpoints to all the layers, right? With that, what we kind of focus on is ensuring that there is evaluation of that access to our enterprise applications at every possible policy level. That's number one. Second, with a cloud first approach, we've kind of taken those design principle steps forward. And I think that I would suggest as a best practice that when you start deploying these cloud solutions, be it SaaS or your private cloud, I think your design principles have to be stronger. You have to define what are your crown jewels, where do you kind of isolate, segment your applications and data kind of layers with the external attack surface. And then also kind of start building frameworks, which Webo initially highlighted, that frameworks are very critical for organizations to make sure that you are deploying your cloud strategies in an effective way. And the last piece I would say, because I think it's a very broad topic, is about ensuring governance and monitoring. With all of this that we deploy, there has to be governance. There will always be a drift. There will always be a drift in configurations, in changes that people make from a business requirement perspective. We see today, like we're being told, like in 2 weeks, give us this business deployment on cloud, which means there is expectation which is of higher delivery rate. But for security, it means we have to be faster than them to make sure that our monitoring and governance is strong. So I would say lay these layers from deployment strategies to monitoring and ensure governance on top of it.
No, of course. See, you mentioned governance, even Vaibhav mentioned governance and frameworks. I would like to come to you, Pankaj sir. They both mentioned about frameworks. Regulatory frameworks are, of course, there to tell us how to handle our sensitive data, and we should handle it better, perhaps. On that note, how can companies also, maintain that balance with compliance and also being agile at the same point in time?
Yeah, that's that's a good throw. Maintain balance between compliance and agility. See, I'll tell you the advantages that I feel of compliance standards, like whether it be HIPAA or GDPR for Europe, and the advantage I see is we've recently got certified as a critical information infrastructure, right? So there's a body by the name NCIPC, which looks at important networks of the country and infrastructures, and it certifies them that if this infrastructure goes down, it's a severe impact on citizen services, right? So networks like Airtel and networks like the systems like GST, the income tax system, these are all critical. It gives me a lot of comfort that NCIPC has regarded GEM as a critical information infrastructure. Why? Because now it comes in a government regulated list of networks that if you try to push a cyber threat against these infrastructures, you are not only violating a law, but you are going to be subject to a stricter punishment and a stricter standard. So that is one part about comfort, right? But has it, if we look at something like GDPR or DPDP, which is going to come, it's going to result in a lot of investment, both in terms of resources and in terms of actual money by enterprises to comply to that. Now, if you look at it from a business leader point of view, it will become some sort of a pain. The word pain can be interpreted very, not in the strictest terms. But putting that money and time and effort into making it DPDP compliant is a painful aspect, right? But at the end of the day, look at how it affects the user. The whole GDPR thing, when it started, a few years back, has completely changed the thought around a person's personal privacy, right? Yeah. So before somebody can take your mobile number or your email ID or your address, it has given the power of consent to you. So has that compliance helped the common man? I think it has. Did it result in a lot of effort and pain for the systems to put it in place? Yes. So it does. Now look at HIPAA, right? It protects your medical history. Now you do not want it to be public as to what you are, suffering from or what someone else, or especially politicians and senior leaders. That information is very sensitive. And it tries to put all those senior leaders and a common citizen on the same platform by protecting your medical information, right? So compliance is an important thing, because otherwise the whole world will, run amok and completely run wild. So we need to have structures, frameworks, and some laws and regulations in place to follow. They might be a pain in the short term, but I'm sure these laws and regulations are made with the common good of all the citizens.
When you were talking about this, as a journalist, I was literally thinking about the whole influencer thing happening at this point in time. How the compliance,
Yeah.
we don't understand why compliance is necessary until we make some mistakes, right? But pat on my back for throwing that one right there at the cybersecurity panel. And I would like to come to you, Vaibhav, on that note. Let's talk about simplifying security architecture, which is not easy. It's easier said than done, but it is also a business necessity, right? If you can share any real world examples on how it can be done or how it was done for organizations.
See, I believe there are already some frameworks, which organizations are adopting. Faisal mentioned about the zero trust architecture, zero trust as a reference framework. I believe more and more organizations have now gone to that level of maturity where they are adopting, the zero trust based architecture, which includes start with identity, which forms the core, because I want to give access based on trust. I want to trust the device, the user, and everyone, and it has to be based on need to know basis, right? So zero trust is one particular reference architecture which more and more organization has adopted, multiple use cases, right? Zero trust network access, which actually became a very, very hyped because of the COVID, the pandemic, with all the operational issues which organization went into. Then we are also seeing micro segmentation, which is adopting. I want to limit the blast radius, right? So that is something which organizations are adopting. So that has been there. However, what we have also seen a consolidation happening on the network and the security domain, right? SASE is a classic example, secure access service edge, where one side we have all the security elements, other side we have all the network elements, combining together, it is created and it is actually getting now implemented and people are taking advantage of it. Definitely, we see a platform-centric approach, as Faisal mentioned, coming together in life on the network side, on the security side, with a unified policies across the network and the security. It makes life easier for organization. Organization are walking that journey. It makes easier because the policy is unified across network and security. So I don't need 5 specialists to define a policy on this device, this device. I can have that unified skills created and I can manage it in a better shape and form. Eventually, we all know security skills are not that much available in the market. So some consolidation of the platforms on the network security will help us attain that, and frameworks exist and being adopted.
All right, and coming to you, Faisal, on that note, see, we are talking about cyber threats, and the whole entire cyber threat landscape is evolving rapidly, right? As we were also talking about Gen AI and all those threats coming because of Gen AI, right? On that note, what are those threats that companies should be or organizations should be concerned in the upcoming few years?
Yeah, I think, see, all of us need to be ready. That's the prima facie of it. So we talked about AI, so I'm going to touch a little bit about that again. We have seen the growth of AI for bad actors, right? They have started using that as a method to deploy very smart phishing emails now and business compromise emails and stuff like that. But I think what we expect now and what I have seen and read from reports is that it's going to grow with how they deploy malwares, how they kind of create their command and control centers much beyond, with rate of deployment becoming faster, because they will have a lot of this automation with AI models on their side using the bad activities they want to perform to get initial access. The second piece, what we have seen, and I think what is going to be also kind of dynamic, is the quantum technology that is becoming the buzz thing, right? With a lot of the data, because I was reading a report, I think in 2024, there have been so many ransom cases, but there have been less of encryption happening, more of extortion. So data is actually being moved out as bigger impact to the organizations. Now, if that think about data being encrypted and then bad actors using quantum technology to kind of focus on getting that data, misusing that data in different ways. So that's second piece to that. The third element is with geopolitics happening, with a lot of that cyber warfare also picking up for various geographies. I think the attack surface is going to go beyond, which means supply chain is going to be a big impact in terms of the threat landscape that we need to look, and the trends across. We have seen SolarWinds, we have seen similar availability issues coming in from supply chain, software companies impacting business, right? And I would say last piece, what Vaibhav highlighted, and I think again, this is very important, is skill set. While we talk about trends, but for anything to be transforming with digital transformation happening for enterprise, I think skill set becomes key. So we as leaders focus heavily on that. How do we prioritize our preparation to have our skills getting developed with whatever workforce we have, and get right skills back into how that journey of security becomes stronger and effective for the organization.
No, absolutely. You spoke about quantum computing, and a lot of these technologies, geopolitics for that matter, are changing the entire threat landscape for us. Pankaj sir, with all of these, there's a new wave of cyber risks that we are talking about, but are organizations really ready to fight with this new wave of cyber risks, and what should they be doing now?
Yeah, I think we had one animal in the market called AI. We had a new one, Gen AI, and now we have the newest animal, which is quantum, right? Quantum, I look at it, I mean, it's from the encryption that he talked about. The biggest power that quantum will bring is the compute power to the, to the hands of whoever wants to use it. So there is a concept called store now and decrypt later. So what powerful nations of the world who want to know what's happening everywhere. So let's take, for example, country A, who is our neighbor, and it is very powerful. What it is doing is, it is tapping into all the information channels of the world, whether the optical cables or the satellites or the networks. It is storing everything that passes through that. It may not be able to understand or decrypt everything today. Why? Because the compute is not available. But why it is storing it is, okay, 5 years down the line, when the compute is available or a quantum chip is able to decrypt that, they will decrypt everything and they will have the complete information as a historical database. So I look at that as quite worrying, and that's one use case that at least I have encountered. Besides that, of course, we saw in the news what Google and now Microsoft has done with their Majorana and their chips. I mean, the numbers itself, I just can't count the zeros or septillion times of years what something could be done in that time has been done in just a bit. So the power that compute and of quantum that will come is, I think for me at least, quite unimaginable right now. And the use cases and how it's going to be put to use will only evolve over a period of time.
All right. On that note, gentlemen, see, we are moving towards the end of our panel. We had discussed a lot of stuff over these few minutes, and now the responsibility is on your shoulders, Vaibhav, to give us those parting words to our audiences. If you can give any one or two critical takeaways on building the cyber resilience in 2025, what would those be?
I would say, with the technology adoption which is happening, embrace zero trust, right? Embrace AI with governance risk in mind. There are advantages of AI, so don't miss out on that. Watch out for quantum, as doctor mentioned, watch out for that. And don't only look at the IT part of it, resilience is more dangerous when we look at the OT part of it. So, look on the OT side of it. So, I would say, these are, some takeaways which I would suggest.
All right, those were the lessons. On that note, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. It was really interesting for me as well. And to our audiences, stay tuned for many more such conversations only at TATA Presents ET Studios, the future of cybersecurity, in association with ETCIO.